I am sitting here with Dylan Mendelson. He is a very good friend of mine. Well, I've known you since 2016, and we did our personal training school together.
Yes, we did the diploma of fitness, and there was I don't think it was a diploma of nutrition, maybe a Cert 3, yeah.
No, it was a diploma of fitness. Yeah, it was
The diploma of fitness, sorry,
Yeah,
and the nutrition course that went with it, I think that was maybe Cert 3.
yeah. No, that's correct,
Yeah.
dude. Before we start, I gotta say, you're looking freaking massive, dude.
And I actually feel like I look small at the moment. You know, you get body dysmorphia so because I'm not my biggest, I've been 12 kilos heavier than this, so in my head I'm small. But I just finished the comp recently, 6 weeks ago. So I feel like I'm kind of big, but small. It's really confusing. Body dysmorphia can be really mentally draining at times.
Would you say you have body dysmorphia? I know that's meant to be a mental disorder.
I'm very in tune with that sort of thing. So it's not a bad case of body dysmorphia, but yes, I've lost a little bit of detail since comp. So I think I'm fat, but at the same time, because I'm not at my biggest, I think that I'm skinny. We call it fat skinny.
What's your body weight right now?
I'm sitting on exactly 100.5 kilos, and I'm maintaining that on 4,000 calories.
And you're saying that's skinny.
I know it's a lot bigger than where I started. My starting point was 56 kilos, so 100's actually quite decent. But yeah, you get in your own head about these sort of things. As long as you've got control of it and you don't let it bother you, it's all right.
Now, you say you started at 56 kilos. I'd like to go all the way back to pre-Monster Dylan.
Okay, if you want to take it back to childhood, my mother used to say to me a lot, look at you, you scrawny little thing, you need to put some meat on them bones. So in my head, it was always embedded that I'm scrawny and that I was always going to be skinny. And I always had this thing with, I didn't know what a bodybuilder was at the time. In my head, I used to just call them muscle men. I thought, fuck, I wish I could be a muscle man. That'd be so cool, but it's just, that's not for me. Anyway, as life went on, I hit the gym, but by the time I was 17 or 18, did a little bit of training with my dad and stuff, and I blew up quite quickly. But I was influenced. Let's say I have a weakness for women at times, and I met the wrong woman, and she was into some pretty heavy drugs, which I stayed away from for quite a while. But then she would she'd go off with other blokes, and she'd say, "Oh, I'm just using, and I didn't know anything about the drugs that she was using or anything like that. But in the end, I cracked the shits, sort of, and because she kept saying to me, if you just use it with me, then I wouldn't go off all the time. So I ended up just using it with her. I thought, oh, fuck it, what's one time? Anyway, I did the one time. One time led to two times, because once you've done it once, you think, well, I've done it already. What's the difference if I do it again? I kept using and using. And so my normal body weight was 63 kilos as a fully grown adult. Well, fully grown almost. I was 21 years old by this point in time. And I was 63 kilos. Ended up using the drugs for like two or 3 months with her. And then I was like, fuck, what am I doing? This isn't me. I don't want to do this. So I stopped. For the day that I stopped, I felt like shit. And I spoke to her and I said, oh, look, I'm a bit sick, because by this point in time, we were living together as well. I'd moved into her parents' house with her. And yeah, she said, oh, you're hooked. I said, what's hooked? She goes, you feel like shit because you're hooked. I said, what is hooked? She goes, you're addicted. I said, no, I'm not addicted. I can beat that mentally, And she goes, no, it's heroin. You're hooked. Your body's physically dependent on the opiate now. And I was like, well, what the fuck does that even mean, So I looked into it a bit further, and I was like, fuck, why didn't you tell me that this was going to happen? And she goes, well, I thought everyone knew, because she was so into that lifestyle. She just naturally thought that everybody knows already that you're going to get hooked if you use too much. So yeah, I found myself physically addicted to heroin. And so that went on for a while, and she kept using. She was kind of supporting my habit. I was working as well, so I'd chip in a little bit of money, but in the end, that it really takes a toll on you, so I couldn't continue working. And as a child, I was very sheltered from everything. And it turns out that I found out, over the past, I think about the past 5 years, I have ADHD. So I was always very into taking chances and risk and all that sort of thing. And Yeah, I guess that's why I started trying the heroin anyway. And as I was saying, I was very sheltered. And I used to see these drug dealers, but like I couldn't even watch M movies as a child. As a child, I mean, like before the age of 15. So once it got to the point where I could watch their movies, I'm seeing drug dealers and money and women and all this cool stuff, and I thought, fuck, well, why don't they just sell the drugs and have all this stuff and then not get killed or not go to jail or whatever? I thought that'd be a great way of doing it. So when I was with this chick and I couldn't work anymore because I was just too physically taxed from the drug use, I just started selling a little bit of drugs myself, and which led to me. I was selling meth. I started off selling the smaller stuff like just speed, and then I kind of moved up because that wasn't selling so well anymore. There was meth became a thing, and that was around more, and that was the in thing to use, so to speak. And so I started using that. No, actually, I started selling that. Sorry, and it was hard. Like business really picked up with that business because I'm very driven when I'm into business anyway. So I made it work, and yeah, I couldn't stay awake to go see all my customers in the end, and yeah, so I thought someone said to me, I'll just, use the meth, the ice, just have a try. And I said, I don't really want to use it, but if it's going to keep me awake to go make this money, then so be it. So I tried that, and yeah, it really pepped me up. And then I was really alert and focused, and my brain was just ticking really fast. Turns out that the medications that I'm on now for the ADHD is actually an amphetamine as well. It's a very weak amphetamine, like 5 milligrams of dexamphetamine. It's nothing, but it's in the same type family. So it turns out the ice was basically medicating me, making me think even better. I was able to. I don't want to make ice sound like a positive thing at all, because it's not. It fucking destroyed a lot of things as well. But yeah, I was able to think and create my business to go better and just kind of make things work. So that became somewhat addictive to me too. So then I found myself, I was hooked on heroin and ice. And then I was selling. And so I had these two habits now that I had to also, I was kind of getting high on my own supply while I was making money, but making the money was always the priority. So I did find myself at times like not being able to use what I had to sell, which was quite painful at the time. And yeah, that went on for 9 years. Like I actually built a good business out of it, but then you become on the police radar. Obviously it's illegal and things are going to fuck up at some point. So that's when the movies started making sense, because I kept getting raided by the police, and I'd end up in the police cells and getting interviewed. I always managed to get out because I'd get out on bail, waiting for court, and then I'd adjourn my court cases just to prolong everything. And in the end, like it just happened over and over again so much that it all accumulated to it was going to look like a jail sentence. So I tried to not go to prison, and yeah, by the age of 27, I'd gotten my current girlfriend pregnant, and we were having a baby. That's my eldest son, Deja. And yeah, I really wanted to clean up for him. So the court was giving me extra chances, saying, all right, if you go to rehab and if you do a detox and go into rehab and you get all that done, then, there's a good chance that you might stay out with some, community work, and obviously I'm not going to get off scot-free because I've done the wrong thing. Like it's a pretty fucked up scene, actually. There's seen some really bad things in it. I wouldn't advise anyone to take that route, because it's a really dark world, and it's funny because it still happens to this day. There's just this dark world that's there, and nobody sees it. Except for the police, of course, or anyone that's slightly involved. And yeah, so my son was being born, and I come from a good family, so I thought, I need to do the right thing. Like I've had a good influence like that. I felt sorry for my parents through this whole time when I was on the drugs too, because I didn't see much of them, and every time they seen me, I was more and more kind of decayed, so to speak. Like I looked like death almost by the end of it. My face had sunken in, my eyes were sunken in, my face was gaunt. It was pretty fucked up, actually, but I still always had in the back of my mind, I wish I could be one of them muscle men, but I just can't do it. It's just not me. Anyway, time went on. I tried the rehab, I tried the detoxes and everything. I did get through one detox, and then they put me in rehab, Odyssey House, and it really just, I don't, like, looking back on this stuff, I can say that my jail sentence was better than doing the time in Odyssey House, the way they wanted to do things in there. It was a very, Odyssey House was a really dog-eat-dog, what's it called? Not detox, rehab centre. And yeah, just good on the people who do go there and they can kind of stick to that system, but the system wasn't for me. It was very, you know, you got to dob on this person for that or dob on this person for this to climb up the ladder, and then eventually you get up the ladder and you have a bit more power. Basically, you're doing that by dobbing people in. Like, I didn't feel good about that. I left 24 hours later. I was, well, less than 24 hours later, I was in the main office saying, let me go, I want to get out of here. I thought in my head already, look, I'd rather be in prison doing this than you know, I've always had a problem with authority figures as well, which I guess goes with the ADHD thing too. So I just wanted to get out of there. I thought, fuck it, I'll just do the prison time. And that's what ended up happening. So eventually all my court cases came around together, and I was very lucky. I think I did 4 years worth of prison in 13 months, just because the way the system is. I ran everything concurrent. I had a good lawyer, managed to run everything concurrent, and I did my time inside for 13 months. And I had some really good supports in there, believe it or not. There's some really good people in there. Yeah, I'm still good friends with one of them to this day, and he helps me with my legit business with fitness and the coaching and all that. So yeah, I stay in contact with him. He's helped me big time. I've met some good people in there that I've brought out here. Like, I've come out here to living a normal life. Like, I had to clean up for my son, and this certain individual that I'm talking about, Charlie, he was in my ear every day saying, he called me Johnson because my last name's Mendelson, and when in prison you get given towels and it has your last name on it, and he quickly just looked at my towel and he goes, "What's your name, bro?" "Johnson." "How's it going, Johnson?" He was a funny little guy. He's a little Vietnamese guy, and he sounds like the biggest Aussie yubbo because he's done a fair bit of time. Like, I think he's done a brick all up, which is 10 years in and out. Like, he was a naughty guy, but then he came out and he had family as well, and now he's managed to stay out. He started up a business and everything, and he's been like a mentor to me now too. Like, watching him grow and be able to succeed in business also pushed me to want to grow and succeed in business. And yeah, he was in my ear all the time saying, what are you going to do when you get out? And I'd say, I'll just keep dealing and I'll do it smarter. And he'd roll his eyes and be like, "Bro, I've been in this system that long. Like, I see it's a revolving door. I see people say that all the time, and they're in and out, thinking they're doing it smarter, but you're always on the radar. It never gets any better, and it's a dead end road. Like, yeah, you might get out and make like $1 million. You might make $1 million, but then you're going to get locked up again. It's all going to go. It's going to go on lawyers. It's going to go on the time that you spend inside, like money getting put in there. Like, it's a big waste of time. It's near impossible to get away with once you're on the radar, or at all for that matter, if you're going to be successful at it. Anyway, yeah, he was always in my ear, and he said, "Bro, why don't you think of something legit you can do, and then get out, look after your son, and do that." And I said, "Well, actually, yeah, you've got a good point. I should do that because his mother doesn't seem to be going in the right direction with things." So 2 weeks into my prison sentence, his mother had actually dropped him off to my mother's place, and my mum's so good. She looked after him throughout my whole sentence. She brought him in every weekend to see me, even though it was like a 2.5, 3 hour drive to the prison. She still come in every weekend just so me and him could make a bond. We built a good bond while I was in there. And then by the time I got out, like, we were close because I'd seen him so much. The prison even let me have a birthday party for him in there and everything, because I was 13 months sounds like a long time, but you know, we've all been in lockdown now, so we know what a year feels like being locked up, and time actually flies if you're in routine. It just goes by like, you know, you're in routine, you're doing the same thing every day. 13 months is actually jack shit. It's like to get off the drugs that I was on, the heroin and the ice, it was a perfect amount of time to clean up. Like, the first few months that I was in there, things were really rough. I barely remember it. And I had people coming up to me, talking to me like they knew me, and I thought, "Who are you?" And I'd met them, but I just couldn't remember because my memory was so clouded and foggy. Like, it was rough. I was in pain. My legs were aching. Guts were churning all the time. I was just sweating, but I was freezing. like, yeah, it's rough getting off that stuff. I would never recommend anyone even try it just because it's that dangerous and that life-threatening. But yeah, anyway, so I did my prison sentence. Charlie helped me a lot in there. He was my cellmate because we'd both been celled up with just dickheads that we didn't like. So you can talk to the screws in there and say, is it all right if we cell up? And they're always pretty happy with that because they don't want trouble happening in there. So if people are getting along, they're kind of happy to put them together. And then, we spent a lot of time in prison together. He helped me a lot, got my head in the right psychological headspace to come out and do the right thing. And I came out, and I came out 2 weeks after I came out because all my friends were Asian. I'm actually half Asian myself. I'm half Indonesian, half Aussie. And I was used to growing up with Asians, and then I kind of had a whole group of friends that were Asian. And I went out when I was on parole 2 weeks after I had gotten out of prison. And when you're in prison, you become very defensive because that's just the way you got to be. You got to stand up for yourself. Otherwise, people are going to walk all over you. And I was at an Asian nightclub with some Asian girlfriends and one of my half Asian guy friends as well. And I think that the Asians that were in there, they didn't like the fact that because I look like a typical white boy, I don't think they liked the fact that there was a white boy dancing with one of their women who was quite attractive. And so one of them, there was a whole group of them come up in front of me and started dancing, like taking the piss out of me basically. And because I was so like on edge or defensive, I just pushed him across the dance floor. I was like, get the fuck away from me. What are you doing? And all of his mates run up and grab me and they're like, oh, just leave it. He's all right. Nothing's going to happen. I was like, all right, cool. So I left it, went back to the bar. I shouldn't have been drinking because I was on parole, but I thought I'll have a few, but I had absolutely no tolerance because I just spent that much time in prison. You have no tolerance to anything because you haven't had anything. I had a few more shots and I can't remember anything, but yeah, I got bashed really bad. There was a whole group of them that followed me out of the club. I ended up seeing it on Crime Stoppers, like down the track. They all followed me out of the club and then they got me from behind, knocked me out. My head was on a step. They just kept jumping on my head like it was a trampoline. Yeah, that really fucked me up. So I got a brain hemorrhage from that. Apparently it happened to some other guy in the city that night as well, and he died. So I count myself pretty lucky that I survived through it. But Mum took me home straight away because she's very protective. She should have left me in the hospital because I was home for like 2 weeks just acting like my brain was dead. Like I was acting like I couldn't control myself. I was flicking soup all over the walls. I was swearing. I was out of control. And so she thought I better take him back into hospital, and they ended up finding a hemorrhage. Like my brain was bleeding, and that took about 8 months of recovery just to become normal again. Like I'd try and walk through a doorway, and I couldn't judge anything. I'd go to walk through a normal doorway, and I'd bump into it, like my shoulder would hit it or whatever. Or I'd be playing with my son at McDonald's playground and I'd smash my head into something because I just couldn't judge anything. Like my judgment was gone. Charlie actually got out of prison and we went to go out for dinner and I jumped in the car. I said, I'll drive because I thought I was fine. And I drove out into the middle of the highway thinking that I was at the give way sign. And he's like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, I'm waiting for the cars. And he goes, you're in the middle of the fucking road. I said, no, I'm fine. Yeah, my judgment was just that far off that I ended up smashing the car. Not badly, I smashed up someone's ass, and that's when he jumped out and he said, bro, just get out, I'm going to drive. And that's when we figured something was wrong. So Mum took me back into hospital, and that's when they MRI'd me and found the brain hemorrhage. Yeah, recovery from that. There was a lot of psych work and stuff because I thought that everyone was trying to kill me. So I was stuck at home. I actually got into a really depressive state where I became suicidal. And I thought, do I just go stick a knife in the toaster and see what it does type thing? Because I didn't give a fuck. I was just that depressed and miserable. And the thing that always stopped me was the fact that I had my son. And I thought, fuck, my son needs a good chance in life. And I've come out and I want to do the right thing. So I got to give him a chance. Like my mum would never give up on me. She didn't. Like even when I turned my back and didn't see them for years, as soon as I was in prison, she was the one who was there. None of my friends were there because they really weren't friends. Everyone was just around, using me for a puff or whatever. It was just, whatever they could take advantage of me for, they would. And they would all pretend to be your friends. That's just the way that evil drug scene thing works. But yeah, family was always there, so I thought, fuck, I've got to be there for my son, you know. So obviously, I didn't end up doing anything bad. I didn't do anything, any type of self harm or anything. I'd just, you know, sit at home every day. Then I'd wait till I have a psych appointment. He kind of got me in the right mind frame about things. It took a while for me to actually get out back into public. So first, he gave me some exercises to do, which the first one was just go outside, you know, go outside, have a smoke if you want to have a smoke, just go outside for a minute. Next day, you know, go outside, walk to the end of the footpath or the end of your driveway, sorry, and then walk back. Day after that, walk to the end of your driveway, have a look down the footpath, walk to the first corner of the footpath, walk back. So there was exercises like that until I got myself around the whole block. And that actually started, you know, releasing some serotonin and endorphins and all that sort of thing, which I wasn't aware of at the time. And I'm not even sure if that's why he got me to do it. I think he was just trying to get me back out into the open so I'd feel a little bit more confident. But, you know, hormones come into play, obviously, when you become active. And, yeah, after being able to do a few laps around the block, I then thought, fuck, you know, when I was inside, my main thing that I did every day that I enjoyed was train. Like I started training in there and I went from that 56 kilos up to, I came out at 76 kilos. So I put on 20 kilos and I thought, fuck, this is great. I'm massive at 76 kilos. I thought I was a giant. Now that I think back to it, I think, fuck, if I dropped to 76 now I'd be so depressed. But anyway, yeah, what was that? Yeah, so I ended up getting back into the gym. Once you get into the gym, like it really helps with any type of mental health, anything psychological. It helps with, you know, activity, just moving even helps. But yeah, gym is a really big help to everything. So I could say that, you know, training basically saved my life too. And yeah, then I trained and I started to get, you know, I started to put on a bit of size, and that's when I thought, you know, I should do this for a living. And then I looked into the Sage. That there was Sage at the time. It's a person. That's where I met you. Yeah, so I looked into Sage and I thought that looks like a pretty good one. So I signed up for the fitness and nutrition diploma with a micro business course attached to it. And yeah, that's where I met you, and that's where I learned, you know, I started to learn. Like I learned the basics. From that diploma, you learn the basics of fitness and the way nutrition works, you know, physiology, a little bit of biology type stuff you learn in there. Not a whole lot, but enough. Like if you're switched on, you can do something with that. And yeah, because I just thought, fuck, I really want to be a trainer. I can't sell drugs anymore. That's a big no-no. I don't want to go around in circles because it's obvious to me now that that's what's going to happen, and I've got to look out for my son. Like his mum's really not around a whole lot. His mum's a good person. His mum's a great person. She just doesn't have a lot of willpower, so to speak, when it comes to you know, trying to guide herself down the right path. Yeah, and it's sad, but yeah, hopefully one day she comes around. But she was also kind of born into that lifestyle too, which a lot of people are, and it's hard for them people to ever get out because that's, you know, they grow up and that's all they know. Which I was different. I grew up in a good family. I didn't know that, but I was just so damn curious because, well, now that I look back at it, ADHD had me, you know, curious about everything, and I was happy to take risks and happy to kind of do the wrong thing, I think. And then yeah, kept training. I did that course with you. It was great doing the course with you too. There was some really good people in there. There was you, MJ, Jem. I still speak to Jem a little bit to this day. I was speaking to Brad for a while. Yeah, there was a few good cats in there. Anyway, so I got my certificate in that, and I really wanted to be a trainer. So yeah, I kept training myself, and I started getting big. I'm not going to say that I did everything naturally because that would be a lie. And a lot of people were saying to me, when's your comp? And I would say, well, what comp? What are you talking about? They said, well, you look like a seasoned competitor. Do you have a comp coming up? And I'd say, no. And then eventually, because I heard that so much, I thought maybe I should do a comp. Maybe that would be good for business. And I've got an uncle. He does basically like a life coaching type thing, and he helps like businesses grow, and he helps a lot of individuals grow and like do goal setting and all that sort of stuff, which I do a lot of myself now too with my clients. And yeah, so I think went for about 6 months. I would see him weekly and make a plan. I'd done the the fitness diploma. So my plan was to do one bodybuilding comp, and I thought that was going to get my name out there and that I'd be, the bee's knees. I could just get any client and just run a business off that. Turns out it wasn't that easy. I've now done, I think it's 9 comps. And only over the past year since lockdown ended, I've been able to really get my business up and running properly. I had some really good mentors too. Dean McKillop was great. He's the last coach that I had, and he basically taught me how to do online coaching and a good way to structure things. And he really upped my knowledge when it comes to nutrition, flexible dieting, macro counting type things, structure and programming. Everything. Yeah, he's a grouse coach, Dean is. Hats off to him. And I've actually tried to advance my knowledge even more now. I've done some consultations with Dean's mentor as well, Roderick Chavez. He's unreal. He's great when it comes to biology, physiology, and especially pharmacology. Like, he's known as the drug guy. So he's basically taught me how to do all that sort of stuff at a really safe level that's not going to cause long-term life issues, really. Like, I wouldn't say safe to the point where drugs is okay, because there's always going to be damage from something some way, But the way that I look at it is, and I hope I'm not being a bad influence by saying this, is if I want to do something seriously, then I'm willing to take that small risk with good guidance to do it, because, jumping in my car, driving here, for example, that's probably a bigger risk, because someone could smash into my car and take me out at any second, and then everything's all over. Why should I tiptoe around life and be so cautious when, I could do things to the fullest? And I'm pretty extreme. Like, with anything I want to do, I'm pretty extreme, and that, I think, comes back to ADHD too, which I should speak a little bit about in regards to mental health awareness. Because I would have never had any idea, but I was training a client now who's like he's my best mate, Nathan. So I was training him, and he had seen me go through some shit with an ex-partner of mine, and he seen that I was really struggling, and he identified some things, things that pretty much told him, because he has ADHD as well, and he identified things that would be an ADHD diagnostic within me, and in the end, like, I was that depressed and messed up from this partner that I was with. Like, things just weren't going well, and I didn't handle it well. And he could see why. He goes, just try a medication if you want. And I at that point in time, I really just wanted everything to stop hurting, So I tried it, and it actually helped a lot. I could focus my thoughts better, because with ADHD, you have these neurons in your brain and everything that kind of spark to each other, like a car with the spark plug to the leads and all that. Like, they spark, and when they stop sparking properly, the car runs like shit. So basically, my brain was running like shit because it wasn't sparking properly. So I ended up getting therapy. I went to Nathan's therapist, Irina Gregorian. She's an amazing therapist. I would never go anywhere else, because she's just the best. It's like she's God sent or something. And then she later, after working with her for about a year, she referred me to a psych, Dr. Reddy, and he diagnosed me with ADHD. So I ended up getting medicated. A lot of people are like, "Oh, don't get medicated. It's useless. It's all in your mind." But that's actually not true. Like, there is a science, and there is actual things that happen within your brain that make you different to other people. Like, it's not sparking, it's not firing properly. If you can find a way to make it spark and fire properly, then why not take that route? That way you can focus better, which makes for a better life total outcome, So I got medicated for the ADHD, and since then I've been able to structure my life so much better. Routine is better. My business has really picked up. I'm able to run my business fluidly and compete at the same time. Like I said, I've done 9 comps now. And I don't like to blow wind up my own ass, but I think that I've done reasonably well with my competitions. I haven't not placed in any, so I'm happy with that. I've taken a few firsts. I won one of the nationals for the under 90s. That felt great. It was such a good feeling. And my therapist helps me with when I'm down with things. She kind of helps me. She goes, put yourself in a place where something where you felt really good. And I always take myself back to that place where I won the nationals in the under 90s, and yeah, it just puts me in a good place. So if ever I'm struggling with anything, I try and put myself back there. And I hope this is helping anyone who's listening, because you can do the same type of thing. Just put yourself in a place that felt good. Just take yourself back to that place. Try and remember how it felt, and then try and project that into whatever situation you're in when you're not feeling the greatest. Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack, and I feel really good that you would share that with me and the listeners. It makes 100% sense that you would have some sort of drug addiction and be ADHD at the same time, because ADHD is a dopaminergic and norepinephrine disease. So the people who are usually diagnosed with this disease usually reach out for things that are going to fulfill that dopamine and norepinephrine system.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
These individuals are usually highly reliant on alcohol use, drug use. They can also be overweight because that fast food fuels that dopaminergic system. But I did have an individual on my podcast recently, Dr. James Keane, who specializes in youth mental health and ADHD specifically. We spoke about something called Bacopa maniri. It's a plant basically, and they did. I don't think it was a longitudinal study, but it was a big study, and it showed that, look, it does take roughly about 3 months to be as effective as something known as modafinil. I don't know if you've heard of modafinil before.
Actually trying to get my hands on it now.
Yeah. It basically takes about 3 months to be as effective as modafinil, but Bacopa maniri has no such side effects as the, as you'd call it, stimulant medications. Exercise is also really good for ADHD, yes, because it decreases that hyperactive. I'm not sure what type of ADHD you have, whether you're hyperactive, impulsive. I'm not.
And I would say I was impulsive, but everything's under control now after therapy, after medication, and especially after a certain ex-girlfriend that I had, where I would get impulsive all the time because she would razz me up all the time. And I kind of I learned to calm myself through these situations, because my therapist would give me steps to take, and they really helped. And then in the end, I could just calm myself. So now I could be put into a heated situation and just know how to stay calm. Yeah, and I'm continuously doing research on different psychologies and different steps you can take with things, and things that I can put through to other people to help them, type of thing.
What medication are you on at the moment for ADHD?
I'm on one called Vyvanse, and that's a slow release. Basically, so I'm on dexamphetamines, which is the 5 milligram one. It only has a half-life of 4 hours. And I find that the Vyvanse is the slow release version of dexamphetamine. It's much better for me because it's supposed to be a 10-hour release, but I feel like it's about a 6 to 8 hour release. So I'll take that in the morning, and then I'll stop. I'll stop with the Vyvanse and just swap to Dexys. So I think I have 2 Dexys a day and 1 Vyvanse. I'm prescribed more than that, because generally with people with ADHD, I think they're prescribed about 6 Dexys a day.
When you were in prison, you don't have to answer this question, but I just find it interesting, because they do say that a lot of prisoners could be undiagnosed ADHD individuals, because ADHD is also associated with conduct disorder. So quick to aggression type of deal. So that could also be associated with ODD. So something defined disorder. It's basically defined against authority, basically.
I think whatever that is, I might have that as well.
Yeah.
That's why I have not succeeded in keeping a stable job working under somebody else for too long. So I just don't like authority. So yeah, I needed to start my own business.
My question was, how did you go dealing with, I don't know if you were quick to aggression before medicated, but how did you go dealing with ADHD within prison?
Look, because I was coming off so much drugs, I was very dulled. I was finding myself again. Like, I didn't know who I was anymore without drugs. So I think when you're in prison, if you're a piece of shit out here, that's going to follow you in prison, and you'll do a rough sentence, basically. I never really, although I was dealing drugs, which is probably old class, almost as a piece of shit, but I never did anything bad to anybody. I never ripped anyone off. I never put cutters into my stuff trying to make more money. Like I didn't sell people shit stuff. Like I was always trying to do the better, right thing, even though it was such a bad thing to do. I still kind of kept some kind of morale about it, and because I wasn't robbing people, I wasn't hurting people, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. Nothing really bad followed me inside. Like there was one situation where someone tried to be a hero because one of my friends had picked up his girlfriend while he was inside, so he wanted to be a hero and blame it on me. And they got me in the cell, and he was trying to be a hero. He punched me in the side of the face, and he wasn't a very strong fella. And I turned around and I said, "Did you just fucking hit me?" And he was wrapped with himself. He was fucking bouncing around. He's like, "Yeah, I've been wanting to do that a long time." I said, "You fucking serious? What the fuck for?" He goes, because of, I won't mention her name, because of my girlfriend, you know. I said, "Yeah, but that wasn't even me. That was one of my mates." And I had told him strictly, I said, "Don't fucking go there. She's got a bloke who's in prison. Don't do it. Don't be a piece of shit." And he did it anyway. I won't mention anyone's names. Anyway, my friend Charlie that I mentioned before, like he is a nutcase, and he's known for stabbing people. So for over the most minute shit as well. Just you don't fuck with him because you get stabbed, basically. And then I think the guy who was basically protecting this guy who hit me, who was quite a big fella, he was like 120 kilos, and I was 70 at that time, I think. So I was tiny. I was stuck in the cell thinking, fuck, what do I do? How do I get out of this situation? I was lucky someone came in to borrow some coffee. So when they came and opened the door, I could quickly, jump out and go back to my cell. And I did. And I think the big fella who was in there all of a sudden must have thought, oh shit, Dylan's good friends with Charlie. And if Charlie finds out about this, some really bad shit's going to go down. So he's come over to my cell and he's like, oh, don't mention to anyone what happened. We'll just keep it under the rug, sweep it under the rug. I said, look, my head's just gone swelled up a little. I had a little egg on the side of my head. I said, what do you think Charlie's going to think when he comes back and sees this? You think he's just going to say, I'm just going to tell him, oh, I fell down the stairs, and he's going to believe me? No, it's not fucking happening. He's going to lose his shit and something's going to be done about it. That's just the way that he is and that things are in here. And he goes, oh, well, what can we do? And I said, how about you send your little mate over here? I'll jazz him up a little bit, and then we'll fucking send him back over. And I'll say, I handled it myself, Charlie. Don't have to worry about it. And that's exactly what happened. He sent his mate in to get bashed. And so, yes, some mate he was. So he sent his mate in, gave him a little bit. He ended up having a big swollen eye, broken, crooked nose, and he had to hide it under his hat for days so the screws wouldn't see it. And then there was more problems that followed that because he was actually Asian, the guy that hit me and I hit him. And so the Asians always get involved and protect each other. Lucky I had Charlie. Charlie was Asian too, because when they came up to have words and do whatever to me, Charlie jumped in. He said, no, hang on a second. That was shit. He was sitting on a chair. He wasn't even looking. They hit him from behind. All Johnson's done is defend himself. And so that happened. It wasn't an impulsive situation at all. I think, look, in regards to impulsive, I think my whole sentence, I was probably that dulled down and trying to figure out who I was, basically, that there was no room to be impulsive, really. And I didn't, because I wasn't a piece of shit out here, there was no trouble following me around apart from what I just spoken about. So I was never in a bad situation, and somehow I just managed to find the right friends to hang around with too. There was 3 of us that used to walk around all day together every day. One of them was Charlie, another one was Nathan. Turns out he had done a murder out here and he had done a murder in prison. So people inside really don't want to fuck with someone who's been killing people in there. It's kind of a no-go zone. So yeah, we would just all hang out and chill. Nathan was actually a really good guy too. He helped me a lot to see, when you get out, you're going to come back in if you start doing bad shit again. It's just the way it is. So listening to those two really helped me a lot. So in regards to impulsive behaviour, I don't think I've inside. I don't think I've ever had to control any impulse of any sort, just because there was no trouble coming my way, really. Yeah.
What would you say was the hardest thing about being in prison? You had a son by then?
Yeah.
Would you say having a son on the outside while you're on the inside was probably the hardest thing you had to deal with?
I knew my son was in good hands because he was with my mother. Like after 2 weeks of me being inside, he was already with my mother, and I know that like she's good. He's in great hands, so I just need to focus on myself. The hardest thing was probably trying to think of something that I can do when I came out to not go back in, to protect my son and stay out. You know what I mean? To raise him properly and be a good father figure to him, which I believe that I have been. Like I think I've done a pretty decent job of being a father figure. But yeah, in regards to me being inside and him being out here, it was hard, yes. And it was always hard saying goodbye to him after the visits all the time. Like I just wanted to be with him all the time. And then when I came out, like we were close already. It was great. Like I could spend so much time with him. And then when I got the brain injury, I had to spend so much time at home anyway. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go out. I was, like I said, I was depressed. So I spent a lot of time with him, just watching movies, bonding with him. Like it was kind of good in a way that I couldn't go anywhere because I got to spend so much time with him. So yeah, it wasn't too hard that I was inside and he was out there, because I knew within myself that everything that was happening for a good reason, and with an outcome that would be me being able to look after him better and raise him properly.
Coming out of prison, you had a drive to do something else, but you weren't sure what it is you wanted to do. You said you found that within prison, but did you jump from prison straight into personal training, or was there a stage where when you came out of prison, you still weren't sure what it is you wanted to do?
Look, there was definitely that stage as soon as I got out, but because I got my ass kicked and got that brain injury so soon after coming out, like I thought I'll finish my parole and then I'll worry about it, which was 2 years of parole, I think. Maybe a year and a half, I can't remember. But yeah, because I got my ass kicked and had the brain hemorrhage and everything, all I had to do, I didn't have to do any community work or anything like that. My mum would just drive me to my parole meetings, and they just ticked me off that I was there and I wasn't breaching parole. So there wasn't much time to worry about figuring out what I wanted to do between that time, and having the brain injury really put a hold on things. But as I recovered and became, better at things, I thought, well, fuck, I want to do this fitness thing, so how about I get off my ass and do something about it? Yeah, so I did, and that's when I started the course with Sage, met you, and now here we are.
You've come out of prison and you've become a pretty successful coach and father, I might say. I will say, actually. So people who have been within the prison system, or people who have had a bit of a rougher upbringing, not really had the circumstances gone their way, I think you could be a pretty good example of you can come out of that system and do something better. Would you have any advice for people who have gone through the system, had a rougher childhood, sort of tried to figure out where they fit within life?
Look, first off, I could just say, stop acting like a piece of shit. Just, you're probably an adult by this point in time, so figure something out. We're all given a brain, use it. That's probably a little bit too blunt, though. So basically, I've also done a diploma now in mental health and drug and alcohol counselling. So I would like to further take my coaching thing and put it together with that, some mental health guidance stuff, like some counselling, maybe even. And I wouldn't mind getting my head into some prisons if I can, just to speak to these guys and give them some directional advice. And so I guess what I would want to tell them is the question that you just asked. What would I tell them? Is find something you're passionate about and follow that. No matter what you have to do, just follow it, because I've been out of prison now for 9 years, I think it is, and only just recently have I finally got traction with my company, my business, and getting it up and rolling, getting it into a successful type spot. And it's taken that long. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. You really got to fucking work hard at these things. Otherwise, they kind of just slip through your fingers.
The tough thing about drugs is most people, the statistic is I think it's around 90% of users say they always go back. Have you ever heard of psychedelics?
Yeah.
So
Haven't done them that much. Like I did mess around a bit when I was probably 14. Probably shouldn't have said that. Mum didn't know
I'm
that.
sure she won't watch this. Just don't show it to her.
I don't care what she knows anyway. But you mentioned something before about 80% of the prison is probably undiagnosed ADHD. I think 80% of the community is undiagnosed ADHD. To be honest with you,
I'm not sure on the statistic if it's 80%. I've just heard that a high amount of prisoners could be undiagnosed ADHD just because of their ODD and CD that goes along with being ADHD. ADHD has also been known to correlate with anxiety and depression. Um, I think what prison systems really need to do is put forward a stronger mental health institution rather than just throwing them in a cage.
it's not. They don't really just throw us in a cage. There is counselling and psychs and stuff that you can see in there. Like they do have a good handle on all that sort of stuff. But whether or not the prisoner or the individual is going to take it seriously is completely up to them. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, they're really not going to take it that seriously.
Going back to psychedelics, the reason I bring it up is psychedelics has been shown to really help with addiction and getting over drugs. Specifically things like alcohol, methamphetamine use. So you have drugs like, I shouldn't say drugs, even though they are drugs, psilocybin is one, MDMA is another. These type of psychedelics have been shown to help counteract addiction use.
Okay, but just sorry to interrupt, but on that note, if you're going to use these to stop the addictions, do you continue to use these because it stopped the addiction and become addicted to these now?
They're not addictive substances.
Okay, but what about the individual's addictive behaviour?
So they've done research. I'm not sure if it's in the United States. It could be the United States. But even people with addictive personalities, because it's kind of like, how would I put it? Let's just say a natural herb, for example. If we come back to Bacopa monnieri, right? Now, Bacopa monnieri is just a plant. Now you hear this and you say, okay, this is probably not addictive, I'll take it. But these plants are just like that. They don't have addictive compounds. They don't act on the dopaminergic and norepinephrine part of the brain. What they actually do is they act on the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, which is your logical thinking. And because it kind of switches this part of your brain off, it makes the other parts of your brain communicate, which helps give you a better understanding of, quote unquote, where you sit.
Okay, that's quite interesting because I think a lot of these addictive drugs aren't so much the drug that's addictive. I think it's more the individual. Like, yeah, I get it that heroin was physically addictive. Like, my body was reliant on that. And ice, meth was, that was addictive because, it peps you up and then it's a feeling that you just chase and you want more. I'm not too familiar with cannabis. I've never used it too much myself. I've used it here and there. I don't know if that's addictive or not, but it seems like when people are using it, they're getting pretty fucking addicted to it because they don't stop. Yeah, but these psychedelics that you're talking about, I wouldn't mind looking further into them because it sounds quite interesting. And personally, my thoughts on things is addiction comes from an individual's behaviour, and I personally don't feel that somebody can ever completely beat addiction because it's within their behaviour. And so what I do is basically, for example, I stopped with the addiction with ice and heroin and even cigarettes because they're a bad addiction. But there's also things that can be a good addiction, like gym, for example. Going to the gym, that's a great addiction, and that kind of fulfills my addictive side of my personality. I go to the gym, keep going to the gym. Only problem is, if I start missing the gym, I start getting withdrawals basically. Like mentally, I don't cope too well if I miss too much gym, and I start thinking, "Fuck, what's going on? I need it. I need it. I need to get back in there." So yeah, it's interesting that you can say that you're telling me about these drugs that aren't addictive. I'd like to know the statistics on how many people have actually completely crushed addiction due to using these psychedelics.
So far, the addiction rate, put it in your words, crushing addiction from using these things like psilocybin and MDMA. I'm not sure I'm pretty sure LSD is also another one that they've used to counteract addiction, is 100%.
Okay. MDMA just sounds like a really good time to me.
MDMA. So MDMA is a non-visual hallucinant psychedelic. Before I go any further, I would like to say I'm not pushing the use of psychedelics. I'm just trying to get out information. And to me, it's really strange that we have these type of substances that we can use to help individuals who have addiction or even depression and anxiety, but yet they're illegal. They're a stage. I think it's a stage one. I'm not too sure. Drug. So that means they are highly illegal. I'm pretty sure even possession of these type of substances is 2 years in prison.
But only in Australia, yeah.
No, that's within Australia. Yeah,
yeah.
Two
other
years
countries, I'm sure they would be legal.
I know in Samoa, psilocybin is completely legal.
Yeah.
I'm not telling people to go to Samoa and just.
But if you want some and you don't want to get yourself in trouble, off you go.
But yeah, again, I'm not telling people to try these substances. I'm just trying to put information out there that there are other alternatives that you can look into. Because a lot of people who go to psychotherapy to get off drugs, most of them end up going back. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but it happens.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't even realize that caffeine is highly addictive. I know there's one person who I work with. He can't go a day without having caffeine, otherwise he gets headaches.
I don't see that as such a bad thing. I think because I've been on the worst end of the spectrum of drug use, I'd say, because as a counsellor, what we get taught is to, wean people off things. Mm. So if you could wean someone off a hardcore stimulant and get them down to caffeine, I think that'd be a great outcome.
100%. If you're on a hard stimulant such as cocaine and you're trying to come off cocaine and then your next step is coffee, 100%, that's a really good step.
Yeah. I don't think that's anything you really need to take away from your life ever.
No. So I won't mention this individual's name, but I do know someone who's so addicted to coffee that they have 6 cups of coffee a day. And caffeine, I don't know if people who are listening to this understand the neurological effect of caffeine, but what it specifically does is it blocks your adenosine receptors. So adenosine is a chemical that your brain releases and eventually floods your brain to help you go to sleep. And the only way to get rid of it is sleep. So once you've had your 8 hours of sleep, you wean out that adenosine.
So you can basically quit daily.
Yeah. So, but the problem with caffeine is because
I'm too much of an optimist.
No, that's all right. Maybe I need to be more of one. But the problem with caffeine is this individual that I know of has so much coffee in their system that when they do go to sleep, they're only getting 3 to 4 hours sleep a night. Okay. And they're not even getting the full depth of sleep, that deep sleep, because the caffeine, that caffeine is still keeping them somewhat awake. And this individual also smokes cigarettes, which is something else that's addictive.
Yeah, look, I think the nicotine would be a whole lot worse than the caffeine.
It is.
But they're both stims as well.
Yeah, they're both stimulants. And this individual that smokes, now cigarettes are something else that don't let you reach that deep sleep realm. Now this individual has severe sleep insomnia because of cigarettes and caffeine. Yet cigarettes you can buy off the shelf.
Is that factual that the cigarettes are going to stop you from hitting a REM sleep?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed when I was a smoker, I was sleeping pretty damn deep, and this ex that I've spoken about a couple of times, she used to use cigarettes to make her go to sleep. But I think she's also another case of undiagnosed ADHD, and things kind of work opposite for us too.
So cigarettes are dopaminergic, so that's why they're so addictive.
Yep.
They work because you do have nicotine receptors in your brain, and they do help release dopamine. They are a relaxant, so they help you relax. It's kind of like marijuana. A lot of people think marijuana helps them sleep better, but it actually doesn't. It just helps you relax to get into sleep,
Yep.
but it won't actually help you get a deeper sleep.
All right, fair enough.
Now cigarettes you can buy, as I said, behind the counter, and caffeine you can buy at Coles. Now, both of these things may seem very harmless from the get-go, which they probably are, from, maybe not cigarettes, but caffeine.
It's not harmless to the government's wallet, though, is it?
Yeah, well,
that's what it basically comes down to.
Yeah. But yet now, my personal thing on psychedelics is I don't think they're legal because the government can't find a way to make money. They can't. What am I trying to say here? That they can't schedule it in a way where they can make money off it.
Of which, the cigarettes, you say?
Psychedelics.
Oh, psychedelics.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure they're making money off the cigarettes.
Yeah, plenty.
With the psychedelics, yeah, I guess so. Is that why marijuana's not legalised here too? Well, it kind of is now, isn't it?
Marijuana, so...
Medicinal marijuana.
See,
apparently people are getting really into the medicinal marijuana now too.
CBD is legal. CBD is legal here. To purchase it here is pretty hard. But CBD is legal here. You can use CBD oil. I've had experiences with CBD oil. I went to Hawaii and I bought some CBD oil. I bought it back. I was purely trying it just for sleep, because I've heard of anecdotal stories about CBD being really good for sleep.
Did it work for you?
So it helped me relax and get into sleep. Now, it did not really help me long-term get a better sleep. Okay, but what it did help me is, as you know, I've got a lower back injury. I've got an L5, S1 thing going on. It greatly helped with pain because basically you have CBD receptors in your body and it actually helps with peripheral pain. Okay, so the pain that I was getting with my lower back was basically gone. However, it's a double-edged sword because when I came off the CBD oil, I was on it for 4 months and then I just came off it because I wanted to... If you're going to see the effects, you need to come off it. So after coming off it, the pain was worse.
How long were you on? Sorry to interrupt.
4 months.
Okay.
The pain was actually worse than it was before after coming off. So the pain was pretty much twice as worse.
Was it actually twice as worse, or is it because you got used to not having no pain anymore and then suddenly having it back and you focusing on it being back? Do you think maybe that could have been a mental thing?
I'm not too sure the science on it. My guess was, as I said, you have CB receptors in your brain, CBD receptors in your brain. And what my guess is, so your brain naturally releases these CBD pain chemicals. But I was putting in so much that these CBD receptors were just getting plummeted, right? And then when I come off, that little bit that it can release wasn't enough anymore. I'm still off CBD and now I feel a lot better, but it was that first maybe 2 weeks where the pain was just a lot worse. After that 2 weeks, it came good. I'm guessing my threshold came down, but that first 2 weeks was brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
It could be like, I'm not saying it's exactly like, but it could be like a drug where when you first come off it, you're getting that, it wouldn't have been withdrawal, but something maybe similar where the first stage is a lot worse than the later stage.
Yeah. You know, well, I'm kind of going through one of them sort of stages now because obviously, like I said before, I'm not going to say that I'm natural because I'm not. When I compete, obviously drug use goes up a lot higher. The performance enhancing drugs, let me state, so people don't think that I'm jumping on the ice just to compete. But yeah, so PEDs go up somewhat higher, and then you finish your comp. Obviously, you got to go through a rest phase, and I no longer come off completely anymore because I don't need to, protect my fertility or anything like that. I have my kids and got what I need. So I come down. I plan to keep competing and to stay in shape as well. I come down to a sports TRT dosage, which is really small, and it's so small that now my body feels like it's back to natural, and my joints are hurting, my lower back's hurting, like all the old pains that were being protected while I was on it, they're all back. So yeah, I guess it's somewhat of a band-aid as well, using anything.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you take on, let's just say you got a competition coming up in the future, what would you take to prepare?
Look, it'd probably be an easier question if you say, what don't I take? Nah, just joking. Look, I'll take, your basic, like, have you heard that thing by Ronnie Coleman? Nothing, just your basics, testosterone, D-ball, tren. But seriously, it goes into like periodization. Obviously, you're not going to go balls to the wall straight away at 20 weeks out of a comp. You're going to build your way up because as calories come down, milligrammage goes up. That way, as an enhanced athlete, you can really hold your weight a lot better because your food's coming down and you're burning fat, but you're retaining muscle while your milligrammage goes up. So you can really hold that weight a lot better instead of being a natural competitor where you're just going down in weight your whole prep. There's no holding weight anywhere really. Like it's really fucking hard to hold weight as a natural competitor. So basically, you add extra things as you go. So I would start with my sports TRT dose at say 200 mgs of testosterone and anthate a week. Then, 4 weeks down the track, I might put in Masteron because I would up my testosterone. Then after upping the test, obviously your body's natural reaction to that is your estrogen is going to come up as well. And if your estrogen comes up too high, you're going to start getting gyno, which is like bitch tits. You're going to start, getting the estrogen effects of like a female physique type thing. So you want to suppress that estrogen somewhat with a drug like Masteron. So I'll implement that, and then I can bring testosterone up a little bit more, and then I'll keep going up in Masteron because I'm never going to get an overflow of estrogen with Masteron going up, but I can still get my milligrammage to go up. I'm giving away all my secrets here. And then, later down the track, say 8 weeks out, I might add in Trenbolone, which is a big no-go for a lot of people. If you're in a relationship, I wouldn't recommend Trenbolone. It's a relationship destroyer. Someone else might want to add MPP, which I can't add MPP because everyone reacts differently to things. And if I'm on MPP, I become like a sooky little girl. I think, why am I doing this shit? I don't want to do bodybuilding anymore. This is shit. What's the point? I get all emotional. So I stick more to the trend side of things for comp. I'll probably put clenbuterol in there towards the start so I can burn fat earlier. Again, I'm giving up on my secrets, aren't I? Yeah, there's a lot of different compounds that come into play, and as you get closer to comp, you got to watch out for water retention, like really close to comp. So that's when things really need to be manipulated and monitored closely. But all in all, I'd say like there's probably a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, probably around six different performance enhancing drugs that are used.
How has using steroids interacted with your ADHD diagnosis?
Look, I think it's helped, if anything. When my dosage is low, like now, for example, I would need to I'll take my Vyvanse in the morning, and then I might get to the point where I need to take 2 Dexys and 2 Dexys again after that during the arse end of the day. Whereas when I've got a higher amount of milligrammage going in with performance enhancing drugs, I personally feel like it enhances everything. Emotions, it enhances hormones, obviously. It enhances your recovery rate. It enhances everything. And I think it actually enhances your brain cognition as well. So I obviously need less Dexi's when I'm on a higher dosage.
With steroids, they're becoming very, very popular now. So when I first started weightlifting, or training, I should say, some time ago, steroids weren't really the odd look. They might have been, I just wasn't aware of it. But I feel like it's gone from creatine and protein powder for these younger type of individuals who are starting out training to them instantly wanting to hit steroids. What? Now you're a steroid user.
Yep.
What is your opinion on younger individuals and people who are starting wanting to hit steroids?
Look, I run my business as well, and I have these people coming to me. I always tell them, because I'm not a big drug, I'm not big on pushing drugs. If people want to be natural, fucking good on you. I'm sure anyone who's listening to this and follows me on Instagram has seen my client Joe. He's 100% natural and he looks fucking amazing. He's dedicated because everything comes down to nutrition, your training, genetics as well. And
Talking that side.
yeah, so it comes a lot down to nutrition, training, genetics, everything. The performance enhancing side of things is, it's a personal preference. I'll run everyone through the fact that, look, there's a good chance you're going to fuck your reproductive system. You're a young fella, you might not want to do that, or you're a young lady, you might not want to do that. Think about that first. If that's okay with you and you still want to do it, then definitely get my guidance on it, because if you're going to listen to these dickheads around the gym saying you need to be on a gram of test and fucking add some tren to that, like, you're going to fuck yourself up. You're going to, like, these people, they're not even checking their blood work. They're not doing anything safe. They're just plunging this fucking oils into them. They don't even know where it's coming from. I guess none of us really know where it's coming from. But, if you've been into it for like a decent amount of years, you obviously get better sources and better connections and all that sort of thing. But these young fellas doing it, like, there's way too much testosterone flying around the gyms these days. Like the gym where I train, there's these young fellas that they're always in each other's face now. People are getting in fights over machines and shit like that, and it's all because they've fucking ramped up their testosterone so much. They don't know what they're doing. They're out of control. Like, get some, if you want to take that route, get some fucking professional help, for fuck's sake.
I personally don't have an issue with people wanting to take steroids. I have an issue with people who are, let's just say, younger than 21 and that wanting to take it. Or I shouldn't even say 21. I'd probably say even mid-20s, because, like, look, your testosterone at that age is still pretty high. Look, if
you're still developing into your adult body too at that point in time. I always recommend, if you're 25 or under, probably shouldn't do it if you want to, get to your full growth potential of what you would have naturally, and then enhance that, which I think is a better idea.
It's not even that. I feel like most people at that age aren't educated on it. They're just jumping on it because they saw someone on a bodybuilding stage like C-Bum, and they want to look like him. Or
and then they'll Google whatever he was using and try whatever the first thing pops up is, oh fuck, we got to do that too. That's how we look like that. It doesn't work that way. Like, you got to start small. If you're a 70-kilo male and you've never done it before, you're going to be hypersensitive to it, and you need the most minute little amount to get your results. Like. It goes in stages. Like, you grow into this stuff. Like, obviously the meals that I started off with wouldn't do that much for me now, because I've grown a lot since then.
what is your opinion on individuals like the Liver King? So people who are on steroids, but then give individuals false hope, saying, "I'm natural. You can."
I only just seen that Liver King thing pop up on my Instagram this morning, and I didn't look anything into it, so I don't know about the Liver King.
Basically, the Liver King was someone, or he is someone, who eats this ancestral diet. So he eats raw liver, raw heart, raw testicles. He eats just all meat. Okay, and now he says he got. Now he's a big boy. I'm not sure what he is in kilos. I'm pretty sure in pounds he's like 250 pounds. He's a massive boy. Now he went on podcasts and other interviews and said he is natural. He's never taken the stuff and he's against it. And then it was found out that he's spending, I think it's $10,000 a month on steroids. and then he tried to come back and apologize for it and say, "Oh, I didn't claim for it because I'm trying to help these individuals with mental health." And the
I don't approve of that at all. I think if someone's going to do something, just own it. What's the point in hiding it from somebody? I don't see the point. Like, yeah, just if you're going to be on something, just own it. Like, it's nobody's business, really. If somebody asks, you can just say it's none of your business. You don't have to say, no, I did not do that. It's different if it comes to children. Like, for example, my son, Deja, he's 11 now. He's pretty on the ball. And these kids, they got way too much with YouTube these days. They know too much. And Deja's just a smart kid. He's like, Dad, do you use the needles? So I had to sit him down and have a chat with him about things. And I didn't lie to him or anything. I said, look, I do use enhancements. And it's not just for anyone. It's because I do this I do it for a profession in regards to what I do for a living. I'm not at a professional level with bodybuilding, but I've explained to him that, look, it does this, it does that. So I've given him a brief rundown on things, but now I went to he's a sprinter now, yeah? So I went to his sprinting the other day, and that was when Melbourne actually finally gave us some freaking sun. So I had my singlet on, and all these kids are going, Deja, is that your dad? Is that your dad? And then apparently they started asking him if is your dad on steroids? And yeah, we have an audience. Oh, what's going on there? Anyway, apparently he said, no, dad's not doing anything. And I said, good, that's the right answer. Like, these kids, little kids like this don't need to be thinking that because they thought I was awesome. I said, look, little kids like this, they don't need to be thinking steroids is the bee's knees and that it's something cool. Like, they don't need to know shit. Like, they just need to know that I train hard and I eat right. That's it.
What is that conversation like with your son? That would have had to be a really hard conversation.
No, look, me and my son, we're so close. We're like best mates, and he's only 11, but I'm telling you, he's like a 25-year-old in an 11-year-old's body. Like, he pulls me up a lot of the time. If I'm about to lose my shit about something, he's like, Dad, just don't. It's not right, Dad. So I've raised him well, I think, and he's taken in he's just a good soul. So conversations like that with my son, he's very mature. It's quite easy, actually.
Do you ever worry that he will most likely step into the weight room one day?
He's been training since he was 3.
Do you worry about him going that steroid route?
No, he's very sensible. I don't worry about that at all. Like, he's into his sprinting, and he's seen me when I'm big. When I was 112 kilos, he's seen me in pain. Like, it become, starting at 56, getting to 112, that was painful for me because that's double the body weight. And my little joints and bones and stuff, they weren't happy with that. Like, yeah, they develop as you grow as well, somewhat. But I'm not worried that he's influenced by me in that, because he sees me struggle to tie up my shoelaces when I'm big. He sees me struggle to do everything. He sees me puff and pant when I sit down, when I'm bulking. And he's already said to me, like, people have said, oh, do you want to get as big as your dad? And he says, nah, maybe as big as my uncle. That's my little brother, and he's a good size, and he's 100% natural. He goes, maybe as big as him would be all right, but, when you get really big like Dad, you can't move properly, and it doesn't make life good.
What is your opinion on using TRT in older age? Because, as you know, and by older age, I mean 40s and up, as you get older, your test dramatically drops, but then what that means, the healing process of a broken bone, a torn muscle, even getting sick, and all these things go down, joint health. If, let's just say, a very older individual was to come to you and say, look, I'd like to get on test, but I don't want to get it to where it's like a bodybuilder level. I just want to get my levels up to where they were for when I was, 18, 19, just to feel good again, to help with my recovery. What would your response be towards an individual like that?
Get your blood work done. Show me your blood work. Get on it. If blood work's saying, you're all right to get on it, your test is pretty low, it looks like time to, up the ante a little bit, then yeah, I'm all for it.
There was a stage where I was overtraining, and this overtraining was bringing me to a very fatigued stage. Now, at the time, I didn't know what overtraining was. So I went to a doctor and I said, look, I'm feeling very fatigued all the time. I train good, I eat healthy, but I'm always just really fatigued. Can I get a blood test done? straight away he said to me, "Oh, you're going to get on steroids. I'm not giving you a blood test." But I was generally just trying to get a blood test because I was fatigued. I figured out on my own it was overtraining, but even to get a general blood test to see things is hard.
I know they're making it so hard now. So I've got this hack for getting a blood test. As long as but some people freak out and they're like, but what about my parents? And I say, well, the doctor's not allowed to tell your parents, otherwise that doctor can lose his fucking job. So I say to people, go into the doctor, tell them you've fucking been on steroids really high and you're worried about your hormones because you're feeling really shitty and depressed. So you need to get a blood test done just to make sure everything's all right. And then the doctor pretty much has to give it to you.
So you were in prison, obviously, for 13 months, and you say that flew by. Were there ever days that it actually did feel longer, though? Was there ever times where you were sort of in your cell and you were in your own head?
Oh, look, there was the start of my sentence where I could barely move because I was so fucked from coming off everything that I was kind of stuck in my cell for the first, 2 months. But then it's hard when you're in prison. People start thinking things and want to talk because it's such a small community in there. People want to start shit all the time, So my cellmate, who was the guy who was my cellie at the time, comes in and he goes, "Oh, people are starting to get sus on you because you're just staying in the cell all the time." And I was just thinking, what the fuck does that even mean? And I think I was still on the smokes at the time. Yeah, I was. I'd only come out for a smoke every now and again. So I thought, fuck, really, I'm going to play the game, this prison game, and do whatever I've got to do to not become suspect or fucking whatever. You kind of can't just do your own thing in there. There's certain things you got to live up to in there as well, which is good. Like, it helps people become responsible as well. Like, clean your fucking cell, do this, do that, So yeah, I get out of my cell more. What was the question again? Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was basically asking, so when you were first going into prison, you were there for 13 months and you said time kind of flew by. But
the longer days, yeah. So those first few months, they were all longer days. Once you get to know people in there and you become kind of social, not a social butterfly, because you kind of want to stick to yourself somewhat, but have a small group. There wasn't really any long days apart from after that thing that I told you about before with, I had to jazz that guy up a bit, so to speak. The days after that were really long because every day you don't know are they going to storm in that morning and get you that morning, or at any point in time are they going to storm in and like rush you type thing to get back at you. So those were long days. That dragged on for probably, I'd say, 6 weeks or so. So that was a really long 6 weeks. Aside from that, the only long days were I can't remember what happened, but the whole prison got locked down. So it was like we're all in the slot, basically. We couldn't leave our cells. There was not even a hour of daylight that they had to give us. Like, we're all just locked in our cells every day for I think it was about a week and a half, maybe. Yeah, so that was a long time, but other than that, not really.
Was there a time were there situations that you saw in prison not involving you that kind of really stuck with you?
Yeah. Like, there's these prisoners in there called prisoners of war, POWs. So there's this guy getting around the prison thinking he's King Dick because he's a POW in a medium security prison. So he thought no one's going to fuck with him. He's a POW, whatever. And then one of the kind of shorter term guys in there, like, they were playing footy and he tried to kind of bully this guy. The POW tried to bully this guy. And this guy's just turned around and given him an absolute flogging. He's just wrecked him. And yeah, this POW pretty much had his jaw smashed across his face. And that kind of stuck with me, thinking, these guys, they think they're all that. If you stick up for yourself, if you actually, stick up for yourself and be a man, then the situation can be handled. So I'm not saying that everyone's going to be able to do that, but yeah, also these bullies, fucking give them some back. Yeah, and maybe they won't be bullies anymore.
So the prison environment, would you say, is an environment where if you do not stick up for yourself, and if you just do try to stick to yourself and do your own thing, and someone comes up to you and decides to pick on you because you're by yourself, and you just try and walk away, would you say this person will now become a target because it's just so easy?
Yeah, yeah. There's no real. If someone's going to actually cross that line of trying to start some shit with you, you can't walk away. There's no walking away, really. It doesn't work that way. Where are you going to walk?
Prison is such a crazy environment to me because it's almost like the animal kingdom. Almost like
Definitely, it is.
you really got to fight for your place, and if you're not ready for that, you get chewed up and spit out.
Yeah, yeah. You got to stand your ground in there. Like we, as you said before about the mental health stuff and the psych stuff, there is actually group therapy type sessions that you do in there as well. And one of the blokes, he was saying, we had to say some positive things that we got out of prison. And one of the blokes stood up and said, prison taught me how to be a man. Because there's a lot of, obviously, these guys that are in prison, including myself, we're not at that, that bigger maturity level. Kind of a lot of boys go in there, and yeah, you can come out a man. You can come out with a lot of life lessons.
We are running out of time, but one more question I'd like to ask you. Let's just say a younger guy, let's say teenagers, is acting up, sort of going against his parents, going against the grain, kind of looks like he might be heading towards a prisoner life. If you could talk to a younger child or teenager, adolescent, whatever you want to call them, like that, and give them some advice to steer them on a more righteous path, because as you've described, prison isn't really a place that you want to be.
Revolving door.
Yeah, a revolving door. What advice would you give that child, or what would you tell them to keep them out of that prison life?
Same thing I said before. Find something you're passionate about and follow that dream.
But what if that passion to them at that time is just selling drugs? Like that's all they can see.
I can say that fucking.
They watch too much Narcos.
I was watching too many movies, and that was actually a passion of mine, was selling drugs, and I did it. Do I regret it? No. It shaped me into what I am today. Everyone has a story. Everyone, you got to. I guess I shouldn't say that. It's kind of influential to say, if you're going to fuck up, fuck up. I don't mean that at all. If there was any advice I could give, it would be just have a think to yourself about where it's going and what it's going to achieve you. And that I can tell you from experience that doing the wrong thing can only lead you in one direction, and that's the wrong direction. Yeah.
That's really...
It's really hard when it comes to like trying to tell youth, because these youths that are going to do that anyway, they're kind of going to want to do their own thing and not going to want to listen to anyone. I just hope that my story and what I've been through could help them, which I think it can. And I do want to focus on getting into some youth groups and trying to help with them as well, because I think that they might look up to me and kind of look at me and think, all right, well, fuck, he's saying that doing all this bad shit's not good, focus on something better. Maybe we should focus on something better and figure out what we're passionate about and do that.
And before we unplug, if anyone wants to find you for some training or coaching?
I have my website, evolvebt.com. I have Instagram, evolve.bt. You can always DM me on them, or shoot me an email to ebt@evolvebt.com.
I would absolutely love to have you on again. I think we could talk for another hour, but as I say, we're running out of time. Dylan, I 100% thank you for coming on, and it was great talking to you. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having me here, Dale.